Look, that's our ship!
Purple!
An emergency message. Outbreak of the deadly virus is spreading rapidly.
A virus?
A worrying new challenge in efforts to contain the Hantavirus.
All we want right now is to feel safe.
For now, nobody is being allowed off the boat.
All ships must remain at sea.
Have fun! My booze!
It's the same disease that killed Betsy Arakawa, the wife of late actor Gene Hackman.
According to the newspaper, FEMA was called out to manage an outbreak of the Hantavirus. I'm saying it wasn't the Hantavirus.
They're buying it. They're buying it.
Your father and I were recruited for a project. They told us it was biological warfare, a virus. What killed those men? A silent weapon for a quiet war.
The Overstood Human Podcast. Unfiltered dialogue, real solutions, no labels. The Overstood Human Podcast exists to inspire people to live with strength, freedom, and a purpose in a world full of noise and division. We champion a life anchored in true health, strong family, personal sovereignty, and self-discovery, inspiring our listeners to thrive beyond the confines of the design system. Our mission is to inspire you to break free from mediocrity, think independently, and live a life of meaning, resilience, and impact. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Overstood Human Podcast. I am Frank Tortorici.
And my name is Sarah Green.
Well, we dove into this one pretty quickly here. It's no secret to anyone who is has eyes and ears that this Hantavirus is being sold. It's the new kid in class, right? It's the new it factor in lamestream media. And there's definitely more to that video, and I definitely want you guys to see the rest of it too. We'll get to that in a second. But Sarah and I were talking off camera, and obviously this is something that needs to be addressed here on the Overstood Human Podcast, because we've talked about situations like this so many times already. We launched our first episode January 7th of this year. And for any of you guys that have been avid listeners, you have heard us touch on, we're not alarmists, we're just alertists. And we've been trying to tell you guys, there's something else coming, and this may be just it. It's starting to have all the markings, or it may not be. But the point of today's episode is to just help piece a lot of this stuff together. And I think first and foremost, before I hand it over to Sarah, I want to say that before we dive into this too, as we've done this before on the show, it's just important to center ourselves in God and Christ, and know that all of this stuff is noise, and it's illusions of the enemy at the end of the day to distract us and derail us from his power, from his presence. And the only way we get derailed from his power and his presence is if we stop paying attention to his power and his presence and start living in complete fear, where we become immobilized and paralyzed, and the fear takes over and controls us with every waking thought and everything that we do. So we must center ourselves first and foremost in God Almighty. And then as we proceed down the rabbit hole, we must be aware that we are covered in the blood of Christ always, and we are protected always. And the purpose of today's episode is just to raise awareness. And really, we want to do our job to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward to make sure that each and every one of you listening to this are walking by faith and not by fear during times like this. So I want to pass this on to you, Sarah. Where's your head at with all this right now?
Oh my goodness. Well, we knew this was coming, and you're right. We've been talking about this for some time. You look at the timing of all of this. It's an election year. It's 33 years since the last outbreak. There's just so many similarities and so many. It's not by coincidence. They're at it again, and you're right. Like, God is in control. I just hope and pray that everybody that fell for, I'm pretty certain that the people that didn't fall for the COVID vaccine the first go around are pretty awake to this, and they're not going to get those to take this so-called vaccine for this. But those that did fall for it, man, I hope you learned a lesson, because this is going to be another very dangerous, very deadly vaccine. And there is a treatment for this as well. So they're going to try to hide that. It's probably going to be the next drug you're not going to be able to prescribe again. But you got to stay healthy, exercise, sunshine, good sleep, detox, do everything you can to stay as healthy as you can. And don't fall for the fear factor, because that's when people start doing things that they regret. So I hope that they've learned their lesson.
And boom, there it is. Headline news today. Trump administration releases highly anticipated files documenting UFOs, extraterrestrial life. Did you see any of these videos, Sarah? Did you have a chance to look at these yet?
I have not, but I'm not surprised. I mean, they've been telling us everything that happens has been told to us in the past. So that's what they do. They have to display, just like that video. I mean, that was many years ago, talking about this new virus and this, talking about the UFOs and all that stuff. It's all distraction, but smoke and mirrors. The world's a stage. The world's a stage.
Yep. And, as you said earlier, I mean, can you elaborate on that there's treatments for this? What have they done in the past with this type of a virus before it became the new cool kid in school? What has been done? What works for this thing, that, to your knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, research is showing that there's an antiviral called nitazoxanide. Nitazoxanide is a prescription medication that will treat this. I actually used nitazoxanide back in COVID when I had super sick patients that I had them on ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and a bunch of things, and I was like still trying to get them. It was the third drug of choice that I would use. So I'm familiar with it. It's super safe. They're going to try to scare everybody into this so-called vaccine. If people really line up to get it, there's all hope for humanity is lost. I mean, it's like, we can't scream any louder to stop and just open your eyes, get out of this matrix, and start seeing the world for what it is. Man, we're doomed if this is what they do. So I think you were mentioning something else about how this vaccine was losing momentum and funding. Let's see what that's all about too.
Yeah, Tim, if we can pull that one up too. And there we go. Yep, this is an article from Seoul Economic Daily. Look at the date there, everybody. Published April 13th, 2026. You can read those few sentences. Korea University equipped with the nation's first private full-cycle vaccine development platform, but government infectious disease R&D investment has declined since the COVID-19 transition to endemic status. Human clinical trials face funding shortages. Here's the important part. Next generation hantavirus vaccine at risk of collapse. This article, again, April 13th, 2026. The first case reported, to my knowledge, was May 2nd. But what I read was that it was April 11th that someone actually, quote unquote, passed away from this on the cruise ship. But the first reporting came as of May 2nd. So if you just look at timelines here, this reminds me of, like, when you start trying to, you start piecing this all stuff together. It reminds me when the whole Charlie Kirk thing unfolded. And it's just like, again, I always say, like, when you get to a certain level in life of questioning things, you have to get to a point where you have to say to yourself, okay, I can't buy into coincidences like this anymore. Like there's just too many of them, you know? And this is really starting to have that, you know? I mean, even in that video that we played, there was that article there back in 2021 saying that this could be like the next big thing, the next big breakout as a hantavirus breakout. So, you know, you see things like that, and it reminds me of like even pre-COVID. Was that in 2019 when Bill Gates, they had that what was that conference called? It was literally like 4 to 6 months prior to COVID actually like starting. God, I'm drawing a blank today. I'm really off today with drawing blanks. But they predict these things, and it's like, you know, they make it like they predicted, and it's coming out of thin air. But you know, these people at these higher positions, I mean, how many times have we seen coincidences with shows like The Simpsons alone? I mean, you know, one time, 2 times, okay, 3 times, okay, but you know,
there's no more coincidences. Yeah. And they try to do something with, you know, once the COVID outbreak happened, then they really pushed hard for the monkeypox, and they wanted everyone to line up and get the monkeypox vaccine. And at that point, I think people were so just like over it with the COVID stuff that they really that didn't get momentum. I know there are people that got the monkeypox vaccine. I can't help you there. I don't know. Those people are just, you know, whatever. But not many, and it just lost steam. And so they have to make it bigger and bolder and stronger. And like today, you know, someone in my office was saying, oh yeah, I watched the news, and they had like literally carrying body bags off the cruise ship. So, you know, you see this now. Do you believe what you actually see on the television? I don't. You know, they could very much stage that and make it look like that, just like they stage everything that you think is actually happening. So it's
well, they did, not to cut you off, but they did the same thing at the beginning of COVID, right? In China, right? They had the images of the body bags in the street that people were just like dropping like flies in the street, right?
Sure. Well, in New York, all of the different like trucks lined up that were taking all these bodies, and really it was the governors that forced that. I mean, I know there were several governors that forced positive COVID patients, elderly patients, where there were beds in the hospital, into nursing homes so that they could increase the rate of deaths in these nursing homes to make the fear look more, you know, to convince the people to take these shots. And so that's what they're doing. And you know, anyone that's buying into this, man, I mean, to think that they're trying to do this, and 6 years later ish, right? 2019, but really 2020 is when they pushed this. So it's literally 6 years ago. If people are going to fall for this again, when they see the destruction, I deal with the destruction every single day. I have vaccine injured patients, patients with turbo cancer, patients who basically lost everything because they took the vaccine, and it's going to happen again. And I truly think that this is going to be something that more of the vaccinated population contracts, unfortunately, because their immune system is much lower, and so it's going to be something that they, you know, the news isn't going to tell you that. Just like the media told you that all of these patients in the ICU were patients that were unvaccinated, which was a complete and total lie. Many of the ICU patients with COVID were actually vaccinated patients, multi-vaccinated. So you can't actually take what they're giving you and have that be your truth. You've got to question everything, question it all, and do your own research. But this is just another fear factor. Another, you know, they've got to make their money from the vaccine. We know what this is all leading to. It's all leading to the one world order. It's all leading to the mark of the beast. And since Trump's been in office, man, he's expedited that plan so fast. It's crazy. We don't have much longer before that's going to be implemented, and we're going to all be saying, I told you so. But again, fear is not what we're trying to drive here. We're trying to just, you know, be prepared, be ready for it. And if you're not, when it happens, you know, you're going to be you're going to be hurting. So make sure you have food, make sure you have water, make sure you have ammo, make sure you have stuff to start a fire, make sure that you have the necessities to be able to get through something. If it happens, when it happens, I shouldn't say if, but when.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember too that right now, when you look at like, I don't even know the number. If you can pull that up when you get a chance, Tim, I'm curious to see what Trump's approval rating is, what the polls say, because I would imagine it's on the lower side with the way the economy is and the handling of the war. Because again, all this stuff seems like noise to kind of deflect from what's even going on in Iran, right? So if we're at a time, like say, where his approval rating is at a low, it begs the question, right? Because it's like we have midterms coming up. So society is at a place where, because there's a lot of people who were Trump thumpers who are no longer blowing that horn anymore, right? There's a lot of people that turned podcasters. Yeah, Sarah. I mean, but I mean, there's a lot of podcasters that actually helped him get selected, that have actually changed their tune as well. So his approval rating is low. So this country right now, obviously the people that hated him from the get-go hate him even more now. But there's almost like this, parentless kind of feeling in the country of America politically right now, right? There's a lot of people who feel like they have no parents, right? In that sense. So what a great time. Because if we look at even like when COVID hit, it's kind of was like the same type of a thing, right? People were kind of like getting really tired of his what he was saying and doing. And it's like that kind of like catapulted things into like a whole nother direction. And it brings in Weekend at Bernie Biden's for 4 years and Cackling Kamala and now again with his approval rating really dipping, the war. I mean, when is the last time you heard the Epstein files mentioned? It's been like months for me, like just even on social media, like it goes to show how powerful lamestream media is, how powerful these social media platforms are, how they feed you what you only want to see and what you're interested in. But the epicenter all starts from lamestream media. If lamestream media is not talking about it, then we, the peasants on social media, aren't like bickering about it. So in that sense, it's like the Epstein files have gone like totally like, yeah, you don't even hear about them anymore. Like you don't even hear about them anymore. And no one has been held accountable, nor will they be held accountable. And in the midst of all this that you brought to my attention, Tim, if we could pull up that other slide about the Disney cruise, there it is. This is Variety magazine. This is just this story's from. There's no date on here, but this, Sarah, you told me about this. This is very recent, right?
Yeah, it just during all of this, media covering this cruise ship with sick passengers was this that was posted where I think it was 28 members, staffers on this Disney cruise were arrested for child pornography. I mean, Disney is the armpit of Satan, and anyone who takes their kids to Disneyland, man, you guys wake up. You guys are putting money into the pockets of sex offenders, of sex trafficking people. I mean, if you look at how many times Disney has had an employee, and I say Disney like even like movies, right? So I'm not just saying Disneyland and Disney World. I'm saying like cinema, right. Disney stuff. How many times do you see an article of some sort of employee who's been arrested, charged, and convicted of some sort of sex crime against children? And then as soon as they're released, they're rehired by Disney. I mean, it's like, it's their little cult. Like they don't care. And then you look at all of the people that are, all the actors. I mean, Tom Hanks, he's disgusting. I mean, you look at all these people, they all have sold their souls. Every single one of them are compromised. And so, it gets back to like, what's going on in your home? What are your children looking at? Who are they idolizing? Be careful what they watch. Be careful who they look up to. There's only one person that anybody should be looking up to, and that's Jesus. So It really is. I mean, it's so gross. And so all these things, you got to, every time there's some big article like what we just have been talking about, um, I always go, okay, what's going on that they're not showing, right? It's a cover up for something else. We know that there's going to be false flags coming. I just read something about one of the Navy ships that are under attack. I mean, they're going to, and a lot of the things that are going to happen, I think, on U.S. soil is going to be our own government doing it, and it's going to be blamed for some other country. It's going to start all this chaos. People are going to get scared, and it really is going to lead to the mark of the beast. If you guys haven't read the book of Revelation recently, I really recommend you read the book of Revelation and understand what's happening and where we are biblically. It's also very powerful too. Like, God put us on this earth. We could have been here at any timeline, and to be here at this time during these chaotic times, like, we are here to preach the word. And I mean, this is pretty amazing. We may be living in a time where we actually see Jesus return. I'm hoping and praying. I pray every day that he comes back, because the world is a mess. And he's watching it all. Nobody is going to be held unaccountable for their actions when they face our maker. So you're right, though. Nobody's going to go to jail over the Epstein files. Nobody's going to. It's still happening. They're still raping and murdering babies and children and impregnating people and stealing those kids. And it's happening, and the world is so sick. But the one thing that's going to unite, I don't care whether you're left or right, up or down, purple, pink, yellow. When you have a soul and you care about humanity, what's going to unite us is innocent children becoming victims of sex trafficking. And I really don't think, unless you're actually involved in it, I don't think anybody would not do everything they could to stop that. And so that's what's going to unite this country. But we can't let the Epstein files go to the wayside. We can't stop talking about it. We must continue to bring it to the attention of the people and continue to demand justice for this, because they're going to put it aside like they've done everything else, the Maui fires, the hurricanes, the floods. It's all yeah. I mean, when it's not talked about, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And we don't actually discuss the aftermath of what took place. So it's so sad. Look here. But man, I'm all done with their games. But yeah, I mean, Nitez oxide will help with Hantavirus, and I don't know, my office is stocking up. So we will have plenty on hand, and you should too. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know what, Sarah, I want to say this too, because I could see already when we do our Facebook Live on this coming week, or when we post some of these shorts, I know there's going to be a couple of those people, stay in your lane, stay out of politics. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. What do you know? Trump's done amazing stuff, and yada, yada, yada. And look, if you're one of those people that are taking that stance after everything that you've been through, I don't even know the words to find. We are not taking the stance of we have all the answers, or we know it all, or and nor should we have to stay in one lane of health and wellness, because addressing this stuff is health and wellness, right? You can't have your head in the sand and expect to be thriving under a dictatorship that wants you fat, sick, and nearly dead, right? That's impossible. So I want to say that we have multiple lanes. If we don't have multiple lanes that we should be in, that we're not living in our God-given potential. Why play it safe and just stay in one single lane when there's multiple moving parts to this thing called the matrix that we live in? And if you take that stance where you just want to shut this message out, it might be too far along for you too. I hate to say that, because after what we've been through, just even in the last 6 years, to have that chip on your shoulder, like, well, what do you know? You're talking about staying in your lane, like I'm unsubscribing now. Like, if you're one of those people, unfollowing. Okay, great. You had to announce it, but great. Like if you feel the need to like approach this like that, I don't know what else to do but to pray that God, puts his hand on your head and really just gets you to realize that, people like us, we're all equivalent, right? We're all in this together. We're all equals. And to your point, Sarah, it doesn't matter, pink, purple, yellow, blue, black, white. It doesn't matter. We're all ants on the ant farm, and the people that we're trying to expose are the people that are the enemy of every single one of us, every one of us. And it's important to keep that as the focal point. And yes, I'm sorry, Trump thumpers, even your Lord and Savior Donald J. Trump, he's a part of that illusion as well. He is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you haven't accepted that yet, he's the lesser of two evils on paper during the campaigns, and we've touched on that during the selection season. But at this point, if you're still paying homage to the man, there's Trump derangement syndrome and there's Trump denial syndrome, and both sides are
Right.
so far gone, and you got to find some truth somewhere in the middle. You just do. I know not one but two people, and I won't get into details because I've promised that I would never speak about it, but I will say that I know two people that have worked with him on a personal level, not during his presidency, but during his real estate years in New York, New Jersey. And I'll just put it to you this way. The stories that I heard about him on having to deal with him on a personal level, it's no surprise that you see so many people that are actually close with him at one point, it then turns so sour. And how many people have you seen that with throughout his presidency years, of people that were so close to him, and then they become public enemy number one to him on Twitter and on Truth Social, and he just attacks them. So that, look, no one's perfect. I'm not trying to say that. Has he done good things? Yes, his handlers allowed him to create the image that he's actually done good things. They just, again, the people that control him allow him to do the things that he's done for us. It's not him doing it. We have to be clear of that. A president is not in power of anything. They're just following orders. They're actors. They're on the television. They're in a suit and a tie. They're groomed. They have makeup. Their hair is done. It's an illusion. It's theater. And you have to take it for what it is. They're allowing him to do certain things. So we must get clear on that. Okay, please, try to step outside of yourself, and taking the stance of what I just described is very, very dangerous at a point like this. It's very dangerous. So back to what pertaining to this virus. What else do you think? What do you predict, Sarah? Do you think if this was to get out of, do you think? I mean, I'll ask you straight up: is this the next COVID? Do you think that this is where this is headed? I mean, I know that's putting a lot of weight on your shoulders to answer that, but I mean, in your gut, what's your feeling on this based off of what we're seeing so far?
Well, there's definitely a lot of people talking about it, much more people talking about it than there was the monkeypox virus. I think it was just too fresh to try to bring something. People forget, people get back into their rhythm. They don't pay attention anymore. And then all of a sudden they're going to try to get that momentum. They're going to try to make this be the next pandemic. And it's up to us to decide whether or not we're going to allow that. Because truly, if we all start freaking out and running and, the masks are going to be implemented. Don't wear a mask, you guys. There's going to be lockdowns. There's going to be closures. They're going to be, they want to take away the mom and pop stores. They want to have just big supermarkets. I mean, think about the financial push towards large grocery stores, department stores, all these things, and all these mom and pop shops had to shut down because they were closed by city officials. It's going to happen again. They're going to try. So it's up to us whether or not we are going to allow this to be the next pandemic. I think if we let it peter out and nobody talks about it, but it's hard to avoid at this point. I really didn't want to. My office was like, you got to bring it up. You got to talk about it. But we should be talking more about the Epstein files, really, and these poor innocent children. So this is what they want. It's an election year. 33 years from the last one. They're pushing a vaccine, and we know that is going to be driving a lot of the problems in people who take it, just like the COVID vaccine. I think there's I don't think the COVID vaccine actually helped anybody, truly. I think it was just
Right.
A money making and murdering tool, and that's what this next one is going to be. So, I mean, you can't. You put all the pieces together in the timeline, and you watch these videos and these shows and these episodes and whatever, The Simpsons and X-Files and all these things, and you just sit there and you're like, are we that stupid?
How many coincidences?
Are people
right?
really that stupid? And there are some, but I really, really hope that those that fell for it again, like, don't line up and get it, right? Don't take it. Don't do it. And if we don't do it and we just make it not a thing, then it's going to peter out. They're going to try though. So they got to do something to alter the elections as well. So not that I'm not even voting. I don't, after talking to you and realizing what's happening, like, our votes don't count. Are you kidding me? The people that are going to be elected are already chosen. It's all theater. It's all theater.
And as I said before, anybody that comes for your head on that comment, Sarah's voting right now by taking the time out to put this information out there to try to stimulate you guys to think. This is how we vote, right? This is the voting that counts, right? This is how we touch people. Going, waiting online and going into a box, into a booth and just checking off names. That's not doing anything. You know, I mean, think of how many people you talk to that go and vote and you're like, so what did you vote for? Like, I don't know. I just checked the boxes. I just chucked everything red, right? Or everything blue. Like I've heard that so many times, and it's like, man, you know, if there was
me.
Yeah, I mean, if there was ever any integrity and even in that, I think that there should be like a baseline kind of like multiple choice test that one would have to pass to know that they're educated enough to even know what they're voting on, being that it's supposed to, you know, supposedly impacts all of us, what you're voting on. So there's no integrity in that whole illusion. There's just none, in my opinion. So, you know, where do we go from here, right? It's like, you know, again, I think it goes back to, and one of the things I want to touch on too, and maybe you can bring more light on this, because this has been very new to me, this virus. I've been trying to get as much information on it as I can. But one of the things that I was under the impression that this virus predominantly is transmitted from rodent droppings. Is that correct? It is.
That's correct.
But what they're saying now is that they went through this whole cruise ship and there was no mice found. And, you know, you talk to like ex-Navy, ex-military guys that have been on ships. I have two or three people in my life. I've spoken to one of them recently, and we were talking about that. And he's like, Frank, that's such bullshit. Those ships are loaded with mice. Like, they have mice everywhere, you know, like, especially like, you know, where the kitchens are, if they're on, you know, the ships and whatnot. But so needless to say, it is kind of a hard pill to swallow that there was no mouse droppings, rat droppings on a cruise ship where there's all those people. God knows how much food is on there. And they're trying, you know, they're selling it that this is actually being transmitted person to person. And when you think of, you know, when you said something before, don't put a mask on again, and now you think that they're selling this as transmitting person to person, it's almost like that narrative is starting to be pushed now, right? Like, I mean, here we go. If it was from mouse droppings, I think this would be interpreted a little bit differently from the masses, but because it's being sold at, you know, I mean, here we go again. If they're selling it that it's through person to person, through saliva, through droplets, well, I mean, we're not far off from, you know, social distancing and, you know, the lines in the grocery stores again and wearing your masks. I mean, that's kind of where this could be going, right? If they're selling that, it's being spread that way, right? And, you know, one other thing that I think we should pull up here, Tim, if you have that screenshot of that Google shot from the AI breakdown, when it was coming to that, the vaccine losing its momentum in the studies of it, in that article from April, one of the common names that you see tied to this vaccine with the Hyundai Corporation, with the research on it, is none other than Moderna. Okay, so there you go again. There's Moderna now, and as we know, Moderna, well, look at them during COVID. I mean, they were the I'm trying to think, were they the first ones to push the first one, or was it Pfizer? Who got the first one to the market? It was them, wasn't it? Was
I
it
think it
Pfizer?
was Pfizer. Well,
Oh,
Pfizer or even AstraZeneca, I don't know, but we didn't have AstraZeneca here in the States.
right,
That was in other countries. But
right.
Pfizer, and then I think Moderna, and then Johnson and Johnson. That one's been pulled, but they'll try
Mm-hmm.
again. And real quick too about transmission with this virus. Um, if it's from feces of rodents spreading to humans, but now they're saying human to human, then what does that mean? That means that they've done gain of function again, right?
Mm.
So they've gone and they've manipulated the virus like they did with COVID. Look what they did. Look at all the lies. It was some bat and some wet market. And you're like, oh my gosh, no, we actually funded it. We
Mm-hmm.
funded our tax dollars through Fauci funded the gain of function studies to get COVID out there and transmissible from human to human. And so if this is actually happening from human to human, and who knows what's actually happening, because I don't believe anything that I'm watching on TV. I don't even have cable. But if that's the case, then someone's been manipulating it in the lab to make it transmissible from human to human. So again, gain of function, which is supposedly been taken off, they're not supposed to be doing that, but we know that the government and everything that's going on, it's all smoke and mirrors. So
Mm-hmm.
but Moderna, I mean, you look at these vaccine companies and they're not liable. They're not held accountable. So they're going to push this. People are going to die from not the virus, but from the shots. And then nobody's going to be held accountable for the aftermath of that. It's been 6 years now since they pushed the COVID vaccine. And we see to this day more and more death and destruction from the aftermath of that. I tell you, man, we are lost as a humanity, as citizens of this country with free speech and free voice and all that stuff. If people go lining up for this, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't
And
do it.
have you been able to verify too? We saw it in that video, that montage that guy put together with The Simpsons. I've been seeing this float around, but I've been reading mixed things on it, that the Hantavirus is listed in the COVID Pfizer vaccine as a symptom side effect. Have you been able to go down that rabbit hole to
Yeah.
verify that?
Yeah, I haven't, but I've known. I mean, I've predicted that there's going to be some sort of pandemic, quote pandemic, that comes out, and it's going to be the vaccinated that get it. And so it would be interesting, although I don't believe what the media is going to tell us, but it would be very interesting to see if it's actually true that there's all these people that are dying on this cruise ship from it. Were they vaccinated or not vaccinated from
We'll never know that.
COVID-19? And we'll never know that. I mean,
No.
family of those members will know that, but
Right.
I do think it's going to be, if it ends up taking off and getting momentum like they're trying, it's going to be a virus of the vaccinated, and we're going to see that. I mean, there's aftermath from taking that. If someone isn't already affected by it, there's things that are going to be happening. Unfortunately, it's so important to detox from the spike protein. But I tell every single one of my patients that does a spike protein detox, you can't stop taking these supplements. I mean, you just can't, because you're now making your own spike. So your body's now a machinery for spike protein, and you can't shut that off. I mean, you can mitigate the side effects from that and try to eliminate and cleave those spike proteins, and so the body can get rid of them, but you can't turn that off. And so we're in for it if this is what they're trying to do, and if people fall for it, it's going to be another 2020 all over again.
And why do you think, the other thing that hits me as interesting too is COVID, we had as an mRNA, and the research on this one is an mRNA. Why all of a sudden all this like massive push for mRNA opposed to just regular, old-fashioned vaccines that, we had in our childhood? What do you think that is?
They're transhumanism. They're trying to change the DNA, the genetic makeup.
Yep.
They're trying to dehumanize, right? I mean, God made us perfect, and everyone's DNA is different from everybody else's. No two are the same. And then you get these vaccines that's going to go in and manipulate and change your DNA. You're now changing the structure of your body. It's transhumanism. That's what they're doing. And all of these nanoparticles and all of these the heavy metals, and I think the 5G is going to be a huge issue as well. We're going to see a lot of that coming into play, probably 6G actually. I mean, if you look
Yeah.
around, you look at what did they do when they shut down the country? They started putting in these 5G towers like all over the place. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll drive down the street and there's 3 or 4 just in my field of view. And they did that while everyone was sleeping. They activate that stuff. The people have got these, nanoparticles inside of them because that's what's in the vaccine. Why is there ever a vaccine that needs to be so stinking cold that it's not going to work until you inject, right? What's in there that it needed to be like the temperature that those vaccines had to be stored in is not just freezer temperature. It's like sub-zero. I mean, it was why? What's in there? Like, why are people not asking those questions? We still don't even know.
Yeah.
So it all of these things, it's all lining up. And what's going to happen is there's going to be this scare tactic to the point that people are going to take the mark.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's where it all comes down to is the ultimate end is the mark of the beast.
Mhm.
And it's here. This is it.
Yeah.
How many times in the Bible does it talk about pharmakia?
Yep.
That's pharmacy. It's sorcery.
Witchcraft.
It's witchcraft. It's Satan.
Yep.
It's Satan.
And interesting timing too that this is happening, and we touched on this on the live, but this whole hysteria about Lyme disease too this summer. How I think it was good old Bill Gates predicting that it's going to be a rough this year and next year, and ironically by 2027 is when Pfizer should have theirs to market. Although it's important to know that they're just pushing that one through basically because they didn't have enough data and subjects in there to run the test on of not enough positive cases of Lyme's disease to have in the studies, but they're trying to push it through anyway because of this. It's just going to be a bad season, is what they're saying.
Mhm.
And there are
Yeah.
report after report after report of so many different types of people that own land, farmers coming forward talking about mysterious boxes loaded with ticks in them just on their property. It's no secret that they're saying that there are these sort of ticks that if you get bit from them, you'll develop an allergy to red meat. That's been going on. Look, this is not stuff that is made up. Several years ago, I think it was even in Florida and other parts of the country, they created these types of, what were they, like kind of like robotic type mosquitoes that they were unleashing into the ecosystem because it would prevent the current ones from mating, and it would kind of kill off their population. So these people are playing God on so many levels, to DNA from ourselves, to the insects, to animals, to our food. There's vegetables that are, I think we showed that on one of our episodes where there was that hearing, I think it was in Kentucky. They're vaccinating vegetables, heads of lettuce, cabbage, they're tomatoes, they're putting vaccines in that stuff. And there was an interesting article a few weeks ago how they were trying to connect colon cancer into young adults, and they were saying that there's a lot of data pointing to it being pesticides in the vegetables that people are eating. And that's not a far off concept because this stuff is loaded with pesticides. But now if they're also putting different types of mRNA technology into your tomato and you're eating it, man, you want to talk. So I guess look, people, I think it really comes down to this. You cannot take your foot off the gas when it comes to your health and well-being, your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health. You literally, I always say, discipline has no days off, and you literally there's no margin for you just can't. You can't. I mean, I've always said that, like, even for the person who's a cancer patient in remission that wants to let loose every once in a while now, like, just, it's like, if you're a person who's overcome cancer, like, you do not have the luxury to do that. You have to find the joy in taking care of yourself. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy that letting loose on a certain day or a weekend, putting stuff into your body that can create sickness, illness, and death is considered living. You say, oh, I'm just living by doing that. when in turn you're breaking yourself down. So, true living comes from taking that mindset. And it's something that I shout every day of my life to people that follow my work or that I work with one-on-one. There's I mean, I live that way. As someone that's vaccine injured, living with Tourette's syndrome, I do not have the luxury to let loose that way. I let loose in other ways, but not in ways that are actually going to perpetuate my symptoms and make me sicker in the long run, just for a 5 to 15 minute window of pleasure. It's not worth it, and we really have to start stepping back and looking at things like that for ourselves, because as we've touched on so many times, there are so many things that are just not in our control. They're just not in our control.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
things that we are doing to ourselves, with ourselves, for ourselves, that we're thinking, that we're listening to, people we're surrounding ourselves with, all of those things we are in fact in control of. So you do not have the luxury to lose focus on those elements in your life. We just don't, because when we see stuff like this brewing, we've got to be battle tested and ready. And that's on a physical level, and most importantly, on a spiritual level. So if we stay distracted and we stay entertained constantly, I'm not saying not have fun, and but there's got to be balance within that. We have to kind of like redefine what having fun is. If fun is something that's going to set you back 5 steps in times like this, it's just simply not worth it. There are other ways that you can do this stuff to keep that momentum moving forward in your life. So all of this stuff has to be in check. And I've had so many people tell me post-COVID, "Oh, you got to stop talking about it. Move on. It's over." We are the news, right? We have to keep talking about this, because if we keep talking about this, it stays fresh in people's head. I'm sure you can attest to this too, Sarah. If you talk to people on a personal level, there are a lot of people who just moved on from what happened 6 years ago. It's like it's completely forgotten. And it's like that saying, right? If we don't really truly know our history and remember it and learn from it, we're doomed to repeat it. And then unfortunately, there's a lot of people going into this phase now, to like what you said, there's a lot of people who will line up for whatever Big Daddy's going to serve them. They will line up for it. They will follow orders.
Yeah.
They will. I mean, I've talked to people who are like 6, 7, 8 COVID boosters in, as they're still getting them, even after all the data that's out. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So I mean, this is what we're dealing with. But this is why we're grateful for anyone that's been with us from day one on this podcast, because we have to keep this message going. It's important for our survival. It's important for us as a species, people who are interested in the present moment and for a better tomorrow for our kids to grow up into, and our grandchildren. We can't be selfish and just think, oh, we'll all be dead soon someday, so it doesn't matter. There's karma here, and it ties into little innocent, the next generation. And I mean that on both levels, in the sense of looking after them on this sense, but also when it comes to, children being abused sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, being used for slaves, being traded, you name it. None of this stuff should stop being discussed. And it really gets me angry to see how little the Epstein files are even being discussed anymore. It's really tragic, and it's infuriating to me. But it goes to show that if Channel 2, 4, 5, 7 news, 5 o'clock news, CNN, Fox, if they're not talking about it, we're not thinking about it. It's the weekend, Friday. It's we're shooting this on a Friday night. Let's go. Let's let loose. It's the weekend now. Let's have fun. And you don't have that luxury. I'm sorry. Like you have the, you have to enjoy life, of course, but you also have to be prepared. That's part of especially if you're a parent, you must be prepared. You must be awake, and you must understand what's going on, not to keep your head in the sand or ignore it.
Yeah, I agree. And I hear a lot, COVID, get over it, whatever. But you say that to someone who's vaccine injured. You say that to someone who's in a wheelchair. You say that to someone who lost a family member, a child, a mother, a father, a grandparent because of the vaccine. Tell them to get over it. No way. We're not getting over it. And until there's accountability for what they did, which I don't think there ever will be, just like there's never going to be accountability for the Epstein files. People need to understand what they've done and what they continue to do and what they're going to continue to do. This is not it. And if this actually runs its course the way that the media wants it to run its course, the way that Big Pharma wants it to run its course, the way that Satan wants it to run its course, there's going to be a lot of death and destruction. And then what's going to happen in another 6 years? There's going to be another one. I mean, it's just the history just keeps repeating itself.
Yeah.
But I hate when someone says, "Just get over it. That was so long ago." And you say that to someone who's now handicapped or someone who's fighting for their life because they were forced, convinced, coerced, manipulated, whatever it was, the reason why they took that shot. And I have patients every day. They're like, "Man, I regret it. It's the worst decision I ever made. I was going to lose X, Y, and Z. I couldn't." I mean, I have cancer patients that literally tell me that they weren't even allowed to get their treatment at certain facilities unless they took the vaccine. Here they are fighting cancer, and the facilities won't treat them unless they go and take the COVID shot. Like, what?
Wow.
So it's inhumane. I mean, everything that they're doing is so inhumane. But there is light. There's light in all of this, and we have to stay focused on that, right? The battle has already been won. The victory has already happened. Everything has to play out, and that's what it's going to do. And God is in control, and He puts people in powers of position to fulfill prophecy, whether they know it or not. So what Trump is doing is he's fulfilling prophecy biblically. I was a total Trumper. I admit it. I can call myself out. He will not and would never again get my vote. Well, no one's going to get my vote. But and to ever look back and say, well, he's the better of the two, we should never have that be the case, right? We should, Jesus first, God first. We're all Americans. We should all be standing for truth. And if you guys understood the lies, the deception that this world has been feeding us forever, you'd be shocked. Like I always say, when we die, we're going to look back and go, "Oh my gosh, like I can't believe that all those things." We're not going to get into it right now, but man, oh man, there's so many things. And once you start taking yourself out of the matrix and realizing, these are all actors. It's all stage. None of this is actually true. They're playing this out. People are watching it. There's that picture of Satan. Well, God's above, and then there's Satan, and then down below he's got like all of the, he's got the money people, right? And then below that he's got the politicians, and below that he's got the actors, and then you've got all of the people just staring and watching, and we're all just brainwashed and in a trance. Yeah. It's like, wake up, snap out of it. Like if we all stood up and just said enough is enough, there's more of us than there are of them. But they're holding the strings and they're playing the cards, and we all have to just rise up and say we're done. And when we're done and nobody else is listening to what they're feeding us, then they have no story to go off of. They're done. Yeah. But we need to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. I think, it's just important for everybody to stay awake, aware, be disciplined with yourself physically, and most important, spiritually. And just know that the power is in our hands, in a sense, to combat something like this. But the way that the way that you fall prey to this is by ignoring it. And I know, again, a lot of people want to just ignore things and sweep it under the rug. And we must know what our enemy is up to at all times, because that's how we're going to be able to navigate and stay in a place of safety and prosperity. And it's not about living in fight or flight. but we must live in awareness, and it's through that awareness that we can proceed and succeed, and overcome and overstand everything that is thrown our way. So everything in moderation, in the sense of when it comes to letting loose and balance. And when I say, again, letting loose, I think that needs to be redefined. Again, when people think let loose, they think getting wasted, eating like crap.
Right.
You know, there are other ways to do it. This is a new day and age. And if the people that you're hanging around with are not complimenting that, then maybe it's time to start reevaluating who you're surrounding yourselves with, even if that's family members, even if that's chosen family members, anything. Like we must be aware of what we're putting ourselves around and into at every moment of our lives, especially during times like this. If COVID taught us a lot of things, but one thing that it taught me is that this, and again, this just refreshes and it reopens those wounds for me of what we're seeing now. But now more than ever, like, these are tribal times, and we must surround ourselves with people that want to overcome this, and not fall victim to this in any way, shape, or form. And the people that are just, oh well, there's nothing you can do about it, or that take that approach, those are the people that either, if they're not open to just reevaluating their vantage point and how they're going to approach something like this, for me, those are people that I respect, I send love to, I send prayers to, but those are people that I do not, want close in my inner circle, because that's dangerous for me and my well-being. So it's just important to be selective and be respectful of one another. But again, making sure that you're in alignment with your values and that the people around you complement that, not derail you from that. So I want to end this by saying, again, we thank you guys for tuning in. This is the Overstood Human Podcast. You can find all of our episodes on X, Rumble, YouTube, and Spotify. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, there is a new episode. And every Wednesday night, somewhere around 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, roughly, we do a Facebook Live off of Sarah's page, where we take your questions and just talk about that week's new episode. And as I always say, anybody that is listening to this that would love to come on to have a discussion, if you are against us in any way, shape, or form and want to debate us, a friendly debate, I want to make that clear. We're not bringing anybody on that wants to actually, there's no name calling here. There's no talking down to one another. It's human to human, sharing values and ideas, and nothing is off the table. We're open to discussing everything and anything with anyone. So anyone that would love to come on here, please reach out to us and we will set that up as soon as we can. And then all the platforms that you are watching this or listening to this on, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. It just helps with the algorithm. So that's about it for us today. Sarah, thank you as always a pleasure. And
Yep, likewise.
We will see you guys on the next episode of the Overstood Human Podcast.
Take care and God bless.
Thank you for watching the Overstood Human Podcast. Be sure to join in next week. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Always consult with your physician before starting any exercise program or doing anything contained in this podcast.